Hello there. My name's Joanna, also known as Jo Beth, and a very warm welcome to my channel. If this is your very first time here today, I'm guessing it's probably because you will have seen the film that I released recently called My Father's World. So today I'm just jumping on here to sit out in this glorious woodland with you and to share my reaction to what has happened since I released this small film, and also just to share a little bit of the history behind it, why I made the film, what the process was, in case anyone was interested to know just a little bit more about it. So I'm primarily a musician, but I have ventured into filmmaking, and I've had a lifelong love of nature and spirituality and all kinds of things that definitely transferred down through my family history. I also used to live primarily on the west of Ireland and spent most of my adult life there, even though I was born in a little village called Firle here in East Sussex. So the process about why I made the film was that over the years of being in the music industry, I tried to do a little bit of music video making, but I just found over the years I was spending a lot of time videoing nature. Sorry, there's a nesting box there while I'm talking to you, and I'm just watching these great tits flying in and out. It's just so lovely. I'm just waiting for these little birds to come back so I can show you, but look. Da-da. The beast of Bodmin has returned. Right, he's going now. The beast is gone. We should be able to get these back. Come on. So the story behind the film is back in 2011, when I wasn't actually quite well, I had some health challenges that were pretty severe. I was still living in the west coast of Ireland, and my parents asked me to come home. So I came back, and during that time I spent a good year, I would say, recovering and also helping my dad out in the landscape in Firle with his job. And he was in his 70s at that point, but he was still a gamekeeper. So I was out there and just listening to my dad, helping him with things. And I thought, wow, I hadn't really spent this kind of intensive period with my dad as an adult, especially outside in nature. And I just thought, wow, he's just saying stuff that's so profound. And at the time, I was super into what I would call sort of alternative pagan new age spirituality. And I think I felt like my dad was sort of agreeing with me in lots of ways that, nature is a very spiritual force. And I was also becoming aware that people's ideas about the countryside were becoming perhaps, I'd say, a little bit warped. And people's connection with nature was becoming somewhat, I would call it, performative. It was almost like we were beginning to make just generally hanging around in the natural world into some sort of commodity, and which was sellable. And these people, like my dad and like his colleagues in and around Firle Estate that were also in their 70s, they were just telling me amazing things. I remember sitting down one day with a farmer called Andy as he in detail instructed me how to get rid of a tree root once you've felled a tree in the most harmonious way so that it melds back into nature and that new life and new plants will grow from there. And I thought, wow, this knowledge is so amazing, and it's hundreds and hundreds of years old. And in our modern frame, we're becoming weirdly less intelligent when it comes to the natural world. We're becoming more separate. And that really grieved my spirit as a country girl and someone that has aimed and intended to live in nature for as much as I possibly can. I just thought, this is all going to go when this generation of rural worker, whether it be England, Ireland, Scotland or Wales, in fact, I would say even worldwide, but when these guys are gone, who's going to carry this on? Who's going to remember? And I just got a real bee in my bonnet about it. Like I just want to capture it. So of course I decided to ask my dad at that point, would you mind if I just interviewed you, asked you lots of questions and followed you about on the estate, and we just had a big heart to heart. So roll back to 2019. I flew over from the west of Ireland and I spent 4 days speaking to my dad in the living room, and I just asked him every imaginable question that I possibly could. How did he start? How did he end up working as a gamekeeper? What was his first experience of nature? How did he know that this was a life for him? How did he know this is what he wanted to do? What had he learned from the trees? What did he learn from the rivers? And I guess the reason I was asking this is because even though my dad is a highly intelligent man with a huge amount of academic potential, he chose a simpler life working on the land because that was much more appealing to him, and that's where his heart really lay. And of course, in my generation, academic potential is pushed and pushed and pushed in a way that really excludes nature sometimes, doesn't it? So I was fascinated by his life decisions as well. Obviously, they had a massive impact on me, for which I'm truly grateful, and actually now feel incredibly privileged to have grown up the way that I did in nature with a lot of freedom that we don't now see for young children. And I also then decided to improvise a soundtrack to match the pace of the way that he moves and the pace of the landscape. One thing that I had noticed over the years as technology had encroached upon our lives was how everything had sped up. I don't know if you have noticed that yourself, but if you go back and even listen sometimes to older BBC documentaries, for instance, people spoke a lot slower. People lived obviously at a bit more of a mindful pace. I wanted to reflect that musically as well as in the pacing of the footage, and to show the seasons as they are changing across the two countries. I think what I found fascinating was that at the time that I started to put this together, COVID hit, and I practically got the last flight available back to Ireland, and felt very lucky at the time that I'd managed to make it home, because everything was shutting down very fast, and the spooky eeriness of sitting in a near empty Gatwick airport and having collated these interviews and this music and this footage with my dad. And I set about sort of how I was going to piece it together. And I'll be honest with you, I think I had a very different angle when I started the idea of making a short film. I think I was trying to prove my own philosophy through my dad's experience. What actually happened over the period of the next 6 years is that rather than me being able to impose my ideas upon what my dad had actually learned from nature, I became challenged, because it actually did challenge a lot of my own personal philosophical ideas as well. I was really, I guess, back in 2019, kind of worshipping nature as a deity in itself. But that isn't really what my dad was saying. He was saying, if you look at nature, it's got the answers but those answers are coming from a higher source, that there has to be something bigger than nature that has designed it the way it is, has designed us the way we are, and has designed it to work in such a harmonious way. And I think that that was the thing that I was missing. If I'm really honest, I was sort of trying to bypass that, but that just wasn't the reality of a man that lived and worked on the land all of his life. And I'm grateful that I've caught up with my dad now, because I was a bit behind. So I make no secret about it that I became a Christian at the end of 2022. I got baptized in 2023. And as someone who had been quite hardcore in the alternative New Age world, that was a seismic shift, not only in my life, but for everybody around me as well. And for a period of time, I kind of dropped the idea of this film because my angle had been so specific, if you like. However, I felt after a lot of prayer that I kept getting led back to completing this film. So I set about the task of honing down 4 days of interviews with my dad into a half-hour arc, which would make sense and wouldn't be too long, but would give you a whole picture. It took me a few months, and it was very, very challenging because there was a gold mine of information in there. There were so many incredible things that my dad said and so many wonderful anecdotes. And it was a tough, almost brutal process to sort of cut those down and to only stay with what has ended up in the film. Definitely the reaction the film has had here has absolutely encouraged me that culling it down to that 30 minutes was, the right choice. And as much as it would have been lovely to have a 2-hour meander, I think people's attention spans are a little bit shorter. However, it does give me the material to continue on this journey with my dad in various different ways. I think the ultimate aim of making this film was not only to honor my dad's wisdom and to give people a chance to hear something that perhaps they're not used to hearing or craving to hear or needing to hear, or to even be able to relate to people from the rural backgrounds that they may now seem generations away, but actually they're not that far away on the timeline. Another part of it was also to kick back a little bit and to say, look, we're putting all this importance in AI, we're putting all this importance on man-made technology, but actually everything around you in the natural world is running on a program that is so much more advanced than AI will ever be. And we are wired to be plugged into that. We are made from that. There's actual scientific studies that say if you put your hands in the earth, no gloves, but if you put your hands in the earth or in the ground, there is a physiological response that only happens when we touch the earth. And it's good for our immune system, our nervous system. And it really doesn't have to be complicated. One thing I noticed about my dad over the years is I've never seen my dad rush anywhere. I've never seen him run, even in an emergency. And I think that that was such a factor that I wanted to somehow emulate, because it really is keeping nature's pace and allowing the natural world to set your pace rather than the technological world. As I've said on some of my posts, my dad doesn't have the technology to access the internet. He does still live in a paper world, which can be very challenging actually. So I take the phone around to see him and Mum, and I read him all the comments and he listens to all of them. And I think he's been really, really overwhelmed, and it's just been very moving for me to see you taking my dad's story and his journey and what he has to share to heart. It's been incredible for all of us. So one of the reactions that people have had to the film also is a sense of sadness. And I don't think I had factored that in, that would be a reaction, but it's completely understandable. Some of the sadness is, well, how can we live like that now? We aren't allowed to live like this now, or we feel we don't have the privilege of these jobs anymore. We don't have the privilege of working in such an technologically plugged in way and actually just following the pace of nature. And I guess what I would like to do on this channel is at times endeavor to share that we don't need to be living an Instagrammable lifestyle with acres of land or living in some exotic wild location. I think that you can let nature into your life and factor it in no matter where you are. There are small micro ways of making a difference. I've often thought myself that a lot of what we actually do in our homes is to try and mimic nature. The things that we enjoy in our homes actually are to mimic our original lifestyles that would have been so much more connected to the land. When you think about even our cleaning products or air fresheners, we're constantly trying to get in sort of the natural aromas that we would have living out here. Like I'm sitting here now, I can smell the bluebells that are fading in the distance. There's garlic nettles up there. Like there's the smell of the trees and the bark and the earth. And it's all like a different tapestry coming through. And we crave that. And when we have that in our homes, whether it's through using essential oils in our sort of natural beauty and cleaning products, whatever it is, we are actually trying to bring that bit of nature into our homes, and we crave it. And we bring it in through having plants in the house and even our beloved pets. So there are so many ways that we are craving this connection and looking for it. And I guess that this is an exploration on how we can do that without making nature performative and some experience that we need to have, and to understand that you have it within you to naturally know how to connect with the natural world. All you have to do is go out and sit on a log, like I am now, at your local park somewhere nearby, and wait. And I'm going to share a little bit more about that, about sitting and waiting, in another video and in another story that my father told me that really helped me understand a lot of things. So for many years, I had a Patreon page and a subscriber newsletter, which I still have, the newsletter. And I used to make vlogs just about stuff that I really enjoyed. Sometimes it was about making music or fixing my guitar up. Sometimes it was about painting things. Sometimes it was about visiting local churches and having different experiences. And I guess what I'm planning to do now on this channel is just to carry on making those vlogs, but instead of them being private, from now on, I'll be posting them publicly on this YouTube channel. So if that sounds like something you might enjoy, then please do stay for the journey. I'll be continuing the journey with my dad here as well. I have a little series I want to work on that I'd love to share with you. I will be continuing to make music. I don't really have, to be honest, much of a plan. I'm just going to show up and see what happens. So if that sounds like something that you might enjoy, then please do subscribe to the channel and just join me here on the journey, and welcome. It's a joy to be here with you. So thank you for taking the time to sit out here in the woods with me today. And I look forward to sharing more with you as the weeks progress. Okay, have a great weekend. God bless, and see you soon.